Today we're going to review the Phoenix N90-DRC 500. That is a 500 series compressor. It's designed by a guy called David Rees, hence the DRC, David Rees compressor. So I went to Phoenix's website to read a little bit about this, and this is a design that David has had for 20 years. And it sort of harps back to some of the classic and vintage style compression, but it has more features. I think ultimately that's what a lot of us are looking for. We're looking for something that can sound classic, can sound like the things that we grew up listening to, but we want a better feature set. We want things that just aren't in old pieces of equipment. And frankly, we don't want to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on vintage pieces of equipment which don't have the features and break down every 5 minutes. What is a compressor? A compressor, I think, probably traditionally started off in the world of radio and PAs. My friend Cameron Webb, for instance, has these massive, like, industrial compressors, and he has some from the military that were used on PA systems in the Second World War. I mean, crazy stuff, just to control dynamic ranges. The Fairchild compressors that everybody covets, the 660s and 670s, were designed primarily for radio stations, you know, so that you could listen to your radio station without the dynamics being so massive. And anyway, so traditionally they started off in a more broadcast area. And then, of course, as recording started to get more and more sophisticated after, 1945, when companies like Ampex started producing, tape machines, etc., then we needed a way to control the dynamic range, not just for radio broadcasts, but also, quite frankly, for recording, because you could go into pure distortion. You could slam tape to an extent and it would sound fantastic, but of course it would distort massively. So there was a practical application for compressors. There still is a practical application for compressors to control the dynamic range. However, they've become a sonic instrument, something that we use to sculpt the sounds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire up these DRCs, and I'm going to put them in a rack here, and I'm going to put some drum stems through them, and we'll see what we can do by manipulating them, not just from the point of view of reducing the dynamic range, but seeing if we can increase attack, or the opposite, decrease it, bring out some room tones, or the opposite, dry it up a little bit. You can have some fun with it. I've found often compressors really show their metal, as it were, when you put drum loops through them. But we've got stems from quite a few different instruments here, so we can mess around with a little bit and see how they sound. So I've got these set up at the moment as two monos. They're not linked together. You could obviously link them, but all right, so I'm gonna go into compression. Getting a lot of compression there. So I've got it set on a slower attack time, so you can hear a little bit of the transients able to get through. If I go to the fast, it's getting that pa, 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 which would be good on a kick and a snare, like blending some of that in. But I like it on the slower one. I've also got it set to auto. Those of you that are SSL bus compressor guys like myself, we tend to favor the auto setting. And it does seem to sound really good on here, but we can go manually here. A slow release time, take it to auto. It seems to, smarter than me, the auto function. So I'm getting a bit of both. I'm getting that little spankiness on the snare, take it off. I like it. It's probably making the snare just a little tiny for me. So let's take the ratio down a little bit. So Rob told me, you've got to try out the gates. Let's engage the gate. So that's at a faster release time. Let's go to the super fast release here. So it's pretty useful. Now you can key it by looks. You can key the release here, or you can key it. So we could have that. I like being able to key a gate. So what that means is I could take, back in the olden days of the Alesis little micro gates, we used to take the hi-hat and key that so the gate would open and close with a hi-hat, and then put a electric guitar rakes for it. So it would go round, so it'd be just like, which was a lot of fun. So you could do that. You could feed a hi-hat into it and have a guitar going through it. So the hi-hat was chopping up the guitar. It's nice because then the guitar is actually playing a groove with the drummer, because you could take a hi-hat part. Yeah, it's cool. It's a great little compressor on drums. Let's try it on some guitars. Cool, so let's engage the compressor. It's nice. I've got it pretty subtly. I mean, that's the thing about this, is it's only from 1.5 to 8 to 1, the ratio. So it never really even gets to limit. It's just compressing. It really is compressing. It's definitely bringing up some of those high mids, which are nice on guitars, a little crunchy. Take it out. That's all Worth, that's all low mids. So because it's a dominant Neve kind of thick sound, those low mids, which are a little hotter in the guitars, you know, are probably getting compressed first. So it's making the high mids come out a little bit better. So that's nice. I use a pair of Phoenix EQs on guitars because of very similar reasons. I can really sculpt the high mids. So this is nice. Not an aggressive thing, but let's try it with a vocal. So let's compress the vocal. We just got the one, it's a mono source. You can hear that low octave in the vocal that I like to put in my mixes. All right, so let's engage the compression. We're gonna go to auto. I'm gonna take it off the fast attack. Don't you know? What I like about compression, and what I love what this is doing, is it's obviously compressing some of the bigger part of the signal, and then this breath at the end of phrases is being exaggerated because, of course, we're squashing some of the other part of the signal, and that is allowing that to come out. And that gives a lot of character in the voice. So it's cool. It's a soft compressor. I'm going to go to fast times. It's a fast release, fast attack. It's not giving me that super spanky kind of SSL sound. They're not claiming that's what they're going for. They want something which is they can use in broad situations. Yeah, it's good. I mean, we can put in the gate just for schniggles. Never wanted your tears to flow. Sometimes you need more than a handle. And don't you know, it won't be easy letting this love go. I never wanted your I suppose, you know, in a really, really noisy vocal, that could be useful. In a noisy signal in general, having the gate there is going to be useful. I don't see an instance on this particular vocal where I'll need the gate. But I like what it was doing with the drums there. That was kind of cool. Makes me feel like if I was to take maybe the rooms, the kick and snare, and then trigger it from the live kick and the live snare, and then have it just gate to that. It could be amazing for rooms. Think about it, because you could have a literally the length of the kick and the snare. Gives you instant, you know, in the air tonight. Anyway, fun compressor. So I hope you enjoyed that. At $799, that's what I've been seeing it going for. This is definitely aimed at a professional market. This isn't an inexpensive compressor, you know, that could do a million different jobs. This is a high quality compressor. I hate using this word, but I'm gonna say it was fairly transparent. It didn't, as we were bringing it in, we didn't hear like massive EQ changes. The only thing we heard on those kind of dense guitars was the high mids were more evident because the guitars were super fat, low middly guitars. and those low mids were hitting the compressor first. So if anything, it kind of EQ'd a little bit for me. It did something good for me because it was compressing those low mids and letting that kind of, you know, aggression of the guitars come through. The gate was really cool. I can imagine that being a fantastic feature if you're mixing through hardware. You don't necessarily have to be running a 24-channel console to use this. You could have a pair of these, and then you could be, you know, printing through them. It would be really, really nice to hear this, like I said, you know, on a room, especially rooms with really bad cymbal bleed. Think about it, it could be really great to take a kick and snare, blend those, run those through as the key, and then control your rooms and print that back in. It would be a fantastic sound because you get that, could be really excellent. So there's great features on there. I think even just running the gate on the stereo drum mix was really kind of interesting to hear what it was doing.